here exploring this idea I'm starting to put out into the world of Odax OS. So how do we build organizations in basically the soup you and I have been swimming for so long, which means organizations which are distributed, so remote first, fractional, so a lot of people are working part-time or working on multiple projects, and then trying to be purposeful both in and out. So trying to be good for the people and good for the outside world. And I think you've been around this space for at least a decade or more, right? So
Yeah.
it's been a adventure, no?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, my first question is, what's your experience with starting with the distributed fractional side of the equation? What's your experience been with these ways of working, and what do you see as the challenges and realities?
The first thing that comes up for me is the actual main challenge. And it has two fangs to it. One is when I was looking at the materials at some point or one of your posts, I thought to myself, there's something interesting going on here. One, the organizational model and the organizing of it and the doing of it is the product on many levels, which is an interesting conundrum and an interesting portal to something. So what I mean is, right, normally someone might have a product like, a new software or a new car, and then they have a self-organizing, self-managing company, to build that car. So one thing is like, what's the product in a sense? And then there is a product of the actual experience of setting new paradigm, of inviting people into new experience. The actual running and experience of the organization is partially the product. I don't even want to say partially. It's a significant part of the product to me, or it's two different products, you could say. Like there's this product, and therefore we get into then, to me, the actual bottleneck to me, let's talk about the reality as always, funding or revenue, whatever way you want to say it. I actually think the biggest roadblock is that there's not enough funding to have the experience, to actually do it and support the doing of it. That's a block. Like, how are we supposed to learn how to do this stuff in some degrees if we're not actually doing it? Like, we're not actually being like supported, nourished, compensated / for doing the thing. Like, it's really like, because it's the cutting edge, you could say, we still haven't run into like some massive investor or philanthropist who's like, oh my God, yeah, like you guys need to run this experiment for a couple of years, like here's like, I'll make sure 20 of you, have what you need and do what you need to do, and then write the reports and build your software and dog food it, whatever. And I have been supported on lower levels, like 20,000, part of a little project, like Synergy Hub, right? Like there's other projects I've been a part of where we've got like some funding, like 20 grand, 50 grand, 70 grand, right? Like to at least give us a simulation of the fractional, distributed, decentralized, co-creative organism, for lack of a better word at the moment. So that's number one. And it's not like a hand wave, and it's not a victim statement, and it's not a complaint. It's fucking reality to me. It is reality to me, and people need to stop, for me, complaining or being in poverty consciousness when it comes to actually building a new paradigm of stuff, whether business, products. Like the thing itself is an innovation itself, and it changes the game on the inner level that you're talking about, so that the products we create are being created from a different consciousness. That's Teal to me. The inner is being addressed. It's being explored. It's being embraced. It's not being othered, pathologized, demonized. It's almost the foundation to me of a fractional, distributed, spirit motivated organization of this kind. It's impossible to take the subject out of the process. That then we get back into the capitalism, mechanism, reductionism, whatever. And I think the goal of a Teal organization is to bridge that gap, and to have the object and the subject dancing together. So it's the healthier the subject, the healthier the production, the better the product. And a lot of people in regular business think because they had so much success with like valuations and profits that there's nothing to change about their model, right? Like they're like, no, if you have the right, the right backers and the right family and the right friends and the right that, and you got a good product, you can get 10 million, 100 million, whatever. Like, so for them, nothing needs to be changed in a sense. Nothing is begging them to do something different. So that's number one, the financial resource slash support of it, energetically, think energetic, money, whatever. And then the other half is in some senses related insofar as as a collective, we haven't had enough time in the dojo, like on the mat together doing these things, so we can find some of the answers to your question. So what's popped up for me over the years? Lack of explicitness in agreements, arrangements, whatever. That doesn't mean this boring thing we've all done where we all sit around and say, what's your vision? What's your mission? What's your intention? Like we all tried that, right? It was like boring and necessarily didn't always work, or we were halfway there or something, but that doesn't change the fact that explicitness is often overlooked. Agreements in place of only trust agreements. So a lot of people in this space will be satisfied with only a trust agreement rather than a legal document that also makes those things clear. So that can also be imbalanced, or a pushback against legality or business or whatever you want to say. And I've been as guilty or innocent as anyone in some of those things, and being myopic or reacting against this thing instead of coming up with a better solution. So some version of explicit is important in distributed and fractional. It is true, obviously, based on my history and yours, having the proper tools is no joke. I've said that from the beginning. The reason why we created NewMap, the why we care about this stuff, is because a tier 2 or Teal consciousness has to have tools that mirror it. So it's like a quantum being, like a multi-dimensional polymath quantum being, people that are ready for fractional, distributed, decentralized, co-creative scaling organizations. We have a lot of neurodiversity, a lot of genius, a lot of eccentricities, and really the flat land of tools that have been available. It's not blaming. It's just like, come on, dude, we're trying to go on a race, and we're meant to have a Ferrari for this race. It's the Grand Prix, and we're driving around with Slack and Asana, and Kanban, which is like taking a fucking Prius to the Grand Prix. So it's not to be underestimated that the tools we use are the tools we become, which obviously is going to lead to our, the emergence of AI is partially part of that solution that is evolutionary. Like we didn't have that 10 years ago at Synergy Hub. We certainly had, all of us, Chris and us and Nico, like we saw the future, the Holons before, Holacracy came out with Glassfrog, whatever. We've always been ahead of the curve that way. But so the tools need to catch up, and thank God we're probably getting close to that point. Like I just, vibe coded a different version of NewMap yesterday, right? It took me like 5 minutes to like rebuild NewMap, right? It's amazing. So we got the tools, we've got the explicitness, like agreements, not throwing the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to explicitness, agreements, clarity of intention, and organizational holopticism, which is part of the technology. So holopticism, being able to see the whole, being able to see all of those projects and people, not because they need to be managed, not because there's something wrong, but it's a living system. And at minimum, if you may need access to those things. It also relates highly to the advice process. The advice process is not easy for people. Like Teal to me does not exist without domains and advice process. Like that is the rootstock of what I took away from like self-organization, holacracy, so whatever, It's like small groups of circles. Somebody or someone's have to have domains, so we're not going in circles. And the advice process has to be respected. And it's not always easy to know who to ask for advice or who it's going to impact. So the key part of advice process, right, is how does this affect the other circles in your system, in your team, in your organization? That if you have 1,000 people working across the planet in 50 different circles with 200 different projects, like it's kind of unintended consequences, right? Like it's a whole system. How am I supposed to know the decision I'm thinking about in my circle for the marketing of my story living is going to negatively or affect somebody, you know, some other three states away and 4 projects away. I think it was actually almost impossible to do that without technology and the kind we're talking about. The kind of technology we have today really should make that feasible no matter how many people or circles are there. Like that should be the easiest part with the AI to some degree. But the practice of advice is also a soft skill and a consciousness skill. So it doesn't just come with being able to look at the map or know everything and just say, oh, if I want to ask advice, I know who to ask. But you have to embrace the idea of the advice process on both sides. Like you embrace the domain holder, like, isn't this great? Like, I can ask advice, but I'm not asking for permission. Like to really have that part of the culture is important. Even Synergy Hub brings that up. People sometimes don't know what to do when they're given their sovereignty or they're invited into their, you can't give sovereignty. So let's say when they have the opportunity to be self-organizing, self-managing, accountable, blah, 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 like in the most leadership-full way, it's not, this is also an evolutionary step for humans, for people. Like it's a different kind of leadership in some ways, not the leadership some of us were taught, especially men, of dominating and forcing and chasing and constricting and grabbing and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, so money, explicit agreements, technology, advice process, domains, seeing the whole holoptical. And I'm going to say that's almost enough for now, plus the last piece, which is I don't think you can have a tier 2 living system without some sense of spirituality or religion or mysticism or existentialness. You can use whatever word. Like to me, existential is a secular word. Everyone, no matter to me, I've never met someone who's never thought like, what's life about? Or why do I exist? Like I've never met anyone. I've never met one human who doesn't, maybe a lot of them don't do it often, or they didn't do it when they were young, but I've never met a human who's beyond like 12 or something who hasn't asked some kind of question that relates to what religion usually accounts for compared to business and science and stuff. So whatever way we want to put that, I don't see any way to do the thing, the Audax thing, without being significantly embraced, highlighted, anchored in, attended to, and understood to be like the trim tab of all of it. As Andrea once said, my ex, whole people create whole systems. It doesn't work the other way around. It just doesn't work the other way around. That's trying to comb the mirror, you know, by changing the system. We need to change ourselves. You know the famous thing, I thought I wanted to change I was clever, I thought I wanted to change the world, and then I got wise, so I decided to change myself. So it brings it back to the point you made, like the organization itself is a whole person thing, it's holistic. I mean, not everyone has to bring their emotions if they don't want. Everyone has different archetypes. But the organization itself has to be able to adapt and embrace and invite and include it for those who do want it included, because then they're leaving half themselves at home, quote unquote. And we all feel, I think, that's not necessarily necessary, like to leave ourselves at home, which doesn't mean every meeting, right? That's the other side of it. Every meeting doesn't have to be a fest of emotions or complaints. That's also part of the explicit. So a group of people might be super explicit. Like when we're talking about operations, right? There's holacracy operation meeting, you know, a marketing meeting, and it's very clear this is a governance circle meeting, blah, blah, blah. So that's also an important one too, like time and place for things. But time and place for things is also part of maturity and leadership and spirituality. Like to know that you don't always have to say everything all the time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, or that this isn't the right container. And when I'm breaking that, it's because I'm actually fucking immature. Like I'm not respecting the agreement I made with people. Like this is an operations meeting. Like we have a meeting for this. We have human resources. We have a way for you to help with your personal or issues with other people or whatever it is. But so respecting those agreements is important. Yeah, that's good. That's like I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty proud of myself in some way. Like these are all like important things to me. I feel like, yeah, aside from the fact I'm extroverted, so I need to talk a lot, I feel like it's pretty clear. Like those pillars. I feel good about that. I think anything I will have left out is like minor detail compared to like those 5 things, whatever category we put them into. And I truly believe it's my experience that is like, I truly believe it's an experience that is valuable, like marketable, cutting edge. Like not everyone on the planet, like me and you, have tried these experiments, and a lot of people that have tried them haven't tried them as much as they think they have. Like really haven't tried it. Like they did a little self-managing or something, and they think, no, that's not being in the mud of what we're talking about. Like this is different. This is like training for the Olympics, and like we're trying to like do the Olympics now, and not everyone makes the Olympics right away, or whatever. Like I don't think it. I think it's kind of serious, quote unquote, on that level. And then you have the reinventing organization examples, right? Like more institutional versions, like Birdsong and the cooperative in Spain, right? Like those things work pretty well from what I've read. I've never been in those companies, like I only read about them in the Lou's book. And I think I think the evidence showed in those cases, it was still about the leadership. Like there was always the person that was holding the vision and implementing it. And when they left, there's often problems. So there's a misnomer. Again, the people that are too green or too we oriented don't respect the I or the source point, right? We've talked about that before. So that is also an issue, like in crossing the tier 1 to tier 2. Like the I and the we can coexist, and they each have their roles, and it's really important to understand and honor them. That's the last thing I would say. Yep, I'm good. Thanks, man.
Nice, thank you so much. I knew you would have a lot of wisdom in this space. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that you're saying. A thought that came to me at the start around the funding, I think it's a chicken and egg problem, because there is all kinds of money out there, but none of the orgs that we're building in general did not reach a level of maturity that they have their shit together. They could go out and get that funding. But they needed the funding to be organized enough and functioning effectively enough to get the funding. So I think this is something, having been around the systems and impact spaces, it's not, it's not like people are throwing money at it Silicon Valley style as craziness, but there is all kinds of funding out there, but you have to be organized. You have to understand how to play within the realities. And I think there is a challenge that these new organizations, because there is so much learning that's needed, it's struggling to get organized enough to get to the funding and to show the funding of the value and all of this. That's one idea. The other thought that I'm sitting a lot with lately is, how did you say it? We have to be whole people to make whole organizations.
Whole people create whole systems, which is my ex-wife's quote. Like, it's not the other way around.
But we have a whole bunch of really beautiful, traumatized and broken humans in general, right? Who on earth is truly whole these days, right? So we are actually needing to create organizations in a reality where most people are not whole.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very interesting one. So continuing, this was just around, the second one was around purposeful orgs and orgs trying to do good. But I think you kind of follow that. Definitely you follow that on the internal side. Anything to add around that?
Is the question just the nature of purpose-driven like organizations, or
challenges? Because there is all kinds of distributed fractional orgs that are just standard businesses.
Yeah. I guess I probably said most of it. I guess maybe I'll just add that a truly kind of purpose-driven, and quote unquote purpose means slightly different things to different people. I'm just going to accept that for the moment. With a general, like it's someone who cares about something and like maybe something more bigger than themselves, or it's a passion, whatever you want to call it, usually driven by some level of giving back or altruism or care or whatever it is. It's rarely a very selfish thing, even though selfish is always part of stuff. So I think the most important last observation on purpose driven is the very thing I just described. It's bringing in something that matters to you. And when something matters to you, you approach it differently than showing up at the office, clocking your paycheck and going home. Like, it's a different part of your life. Like, it's a different way. It's like your ikigai, you know, in a way. Like, and that's, I'll just leave it there. We could go into that deeper someday, but that's the thing about purpose driven to me. It's not the same animal to me. And especially tier 2 purpose driven. Like, you could say there's a tier 1 purpose driven and it's great. I'm sure there's amazing companies that do great in the world or whatever. Newman's Own, Patagonia might even be tier 2 for all I know, if I really looked at the way they behave and what they do and all that. So yeah, I think that's the most important thing when I think of purpose driven. It's kind of like no joke. Like, that's the defining thing in a way. Even if you look at Lelou's stuff, it's that famous quote I'll send you again, like from his book. I love it. I saved it in my Telegram, which is something like, in the future, it'll be less about roles and nonprofits and for-profits and more about where you can give your gift and then make the exchanges like you're talking about. Like, it's because it's driven by purpose and evolutionary purpose. It's not driven by the same things. Tier two purpose is also different than tier 1 purpose, in my opinion. It's more transclusive, you know. Tier 1 purpose is much more like green and orange, like bottom line, give some money back, make the planet nicer or something, where tier 2 purpose is like holistic thinking. It's got a lot more spirit maybe involved and systems thinking from the yellow. And then intuitive and guidance, right? Like, you can channel solutions or make choices together through other means, which is important. I'll add that in as the last thing. People make fun of the woo-woo or this and that, and there's plenty of that, but it's also true that we can do constellations. It's also true a lot of us on our path to wholeness and neurodiversity actually receive guidance, whatever word you want to use, downloads, guidance, intuition, genius, I don't know, but that's all part of the package. In tier 2 for sure. We're cutting our legs off, like, underneath us, if we don't respect that, even if we don't always understand it. Like, I don't understand people who are psychic in some ways, right? Like, it's not my experience. I have a friend who can, read your body and your like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I don't even fucking have a map for that, right? Like, I don't know how she does it. I don't, but I've seen the effects, so I don't need to make it something other than just because I don't understand it, And I think it's the same with our geniuses. Like, people would ask me, well, how do you know spiritual philanthropy is so important, or story living? Or for you, how do you know Audax is so important? It's like, sometimes you can't answer that with objective answers, but it doesn't mean that there's no proof. So it's an interesting thing with purpose driven. Yep.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think I'm making these conversations longer going forward, but this one is only half hour and I need to talk to the next person. But just briefly, do you have an image of how AI and agents could help with some of the challenges they identified?
Yeah, I'm going to make one point, hopefully 20 seconds. The other thing I wanted to share was, we may have to be a little bit more novel and split this thing into, again, the product of the organization and the product that the organization is making. So, for example, no one had a problem funding the Eden Project in England, right? Like 100 acres, a big dome, because it was an experiment. It was actually an experiment. It was funded because of that. So we might want to look at the marketing again, communications. Can we get funding for the experiment of the organization? And then can we get funding for the product that experimental organization is creating? Which in this case is Audax, which brings us to AI. And I'll leave that for another conversation. I think it's quite self-evident, and I'd probably say everything that you would say. Like, it's just mind-blowing the gaps that AI can fill, like, for the computational power to stay connected, to find things, to stay coherent in some ways, and then to be creative and all that good stuff. Saves time, saves money, efficient, all that good stuff. So yeah, we'll just pick that up another time. I think it's everything you would say, basically.
Nice. All right. Thank you. Let's jump to the lounge so we can chat